Hey math class, it is Wednesday. It's time for today's lesson. Check out my high-tech studio lab, how I do my taping nowadays. I'm getting with the times electronically. Alright, so today we are going to look at algebra with fractions. This is our classwork for today. Yesterday we did algebra with decimals. So remember how we do this. We isolate the variable, and then we use inverse operations to do this. So the additive property of equality tells us that we can add the same to either side of the equation or subtract the same. The multiplicative property of equality tells us we can multiply or divide the same thing to each side, since multiplication and division are inverses and addition and subtraction are inverses. Okay, yesterday we did it with decimals. Today we're going to do it with fractions. So looking at our first problem here, we're going to solve for b. 7 equals 14 b's. 14 b's means 14 times b equals 7. If I put this on a balance, these sides balance. 14 times b is the same as 7. So I want to get b alone. I want to isolate my b. So I'm going to do the inverse of times 14 to both sides of the equation using the multiplicative property of equality. So the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we're going to divide both sides by 14. That leaves us with b is the same as 7 divided by 14. 7/14. We can write division problems as fractions. And then we can simplify. So a common factor in both 7 and 14 is 7. So it's the same as a half. B is the same as a half. We can plug a half in over here. 7 equals 14 halves. Yeah, we know that. Okay, so the next one. 30m equals 6. So 30 times m, I'm going to write it like this. M times 30 equals 6. It's a good idea for you to be writing these problems down too and practicing them. Practice makes permanent. So we want to isolate our m. We want to get it all by itself over on this side. So I'm going to get rid of times 30, multiplying by 30, so we're going to divide both sides by 30. So over here we have 6 divided by 30, 6/30. Now, I can use whatever common factor to simplify. I could divide them both by 2, which would give me 3/15. And I could divide them both by 3, which would give me 1/5. Or I could divide straight by 6. Using your greatest common factor gets you there faster. So m equals 1/5. If I plugged in 1/5 over here, 1/5 of 30 is about 6. That makes sense. All right, let's do this next one. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. Maybe too much. 48 equals 8/3 x. So x times 8/3. I don't like using multiplication symbol, I know, because it looks like 2 x's, equals 48. So I want to isolate my variable. I want to get the x all by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by 8/3. Now this doesn't work for a final answer like we just did above, 48 over 8/3. That's too much over there. So we're going to do the skill we worked on several weeks ago, dividing fractions. 48 over 1 divided by 8/3. We're going to keep it. We're going to change it. We're going to flip it. Keep, change, flip. Keep, change, flip. Okay. Now I'm going to reduce early, so I'm not ending up with really big numbers. You could multiply across and get 147 over 8, but it's a lot. Well, not 147, 144 over 8. But it's easier to simplify first. You can divide both of these by 8. So now we have 6 times 3 is 18 over 1 times 1. So 18 over 1, which is just 18. So if I plugged 18 in back here for my x, 8/3 of 18 is about 48. That makes sense. All right, let's do the same thing again. Oh, my fancy lab isn't working too well for this last one. 5, 6 times y equals 30. So y times 5, 6 equals 30. Notice all these problems today, we're doing the multiplicative property. We're not doing the additive property. So we're basically dividing on all these problems. But that won't always be the case. I want you to know the why behind it. Okay, y is your variable here. We're isolating it, so the opposite of times 5/6 is divided by 5/6. So over on this, I'm going to do 30 divided by 5/6. Remember, 30 is the same as 30 over 1. Keep it, change it, flip it, reduce early, divided by 5, divided by 5. So that gives us 36 over 1, which is 36. So over here, we're left with y equals 36. So 5/6 of 36 should be 30. That makes sense. We always want to check to make sure our answer is reasonable. All right, so we just went over 2 topics in ALEKS. These are in your equation, pie slice. First, do that 4-question assignment, which is very similar to this, and then go do your ALEKS. All right, good luck today.